This is Say Cheese and Die Screaming, which is book 8 in the Goosebumps HorrorLand series by RL Stine. Chapter 1. Julie, wait up! My best friend Rena Jacobs ran across the school hallway toward me. Her blonde ponytail bobbed behind her. Is that a new camera? I shook my head. It's one of my old cameras. It swung from a strap around my neck. Dad says he'll buy me a new one if I get the big assignment from Mr. Webb. Rena blinked her green eyes. Big assignment? I gave her a shove. Rena, I've only been talking about it for months, remember? To shoot the entire student body for the big 2-page spread in The Tiger. That's the name of our yearbook. Rena scrunched up her face. I thought Mr. Webb already chose David Blank for that. Well, you thought wrong, I said. That's why I'm hurrying to the Tiger office. I've got an awesome idea. No way Mr. Webb can say no to it. David can sit on his butt and watch me take the photo. Rena laughed. You don't like David, do you? I rolled my eyes. Does a lettuce like a goat? She frowned at me. Goat? I don't get that, Julie. With her light blonde hair and big green eyes, Rena is very pretty. I think she's the prettiest girl at Twin Forks Middle School. And she's smart, too. And she only understands straight talk. I meant David tries to gobble up everything, I explained. He wants to be the only star. Mr. Webb asked me to shoot the bake sale in the gym last week, and when I showed up, guess who was there? David? You got it, I said. He's very competitive, Rena said. Then she grinned. But I think he's kind of cute. Cute? I stuck my finger down my throat. With that bright orange hair and those orange freckles, he looks like a carrot. You have vegetables on the brain, Rena said. No, I've got pictures on the brain, I said. I can be just as competitive as David. I really want to take that big photo. That's why I want to get to the yearbook office before David does. I turned and started to jog down the hall. It was nearly 3:30 and the school had emptied out. Julie, Rena called after me, are we still going bike riding on Saturday? I've got to watch Sammy in the morning, I said. Sammy is my little brother. We can ride all afternoon. I turned the corner and bumped right into the Sneer sisters. Actually, Becca and Greta aren't sisters. They're best friends. I've never seen them apart. I call them the Sneer sisters because they both always sneer when they see me, like I smell like rotten meat or something, and they're always so totally mean to me. They even look a little alike. They were both tall and very skinny, and they both have long noses and kind of pointy chins, like witch chins. Hi, Juju, Becca said, sneering. I gritted my teeth. She knows I hate to be called Juju. That's what I called myself when I was too little to say the name Julie. Greta pointed at my mouth. Juju, you have something on your front teeth, she said. I rubbed my teeth with my pointer finger. Is it gone? I asked her. Greta nodded. Yeah, it was your finger. They both slapped high fives and cackled like that was the funniest joke in history. Where did you get that joke? I said. First grade or second? I pushed past them and hurried down the hall. My camera bounced in front of me as I jogged. The yearbook office was the last door on the left. I grabbed the knob, twisted it, and burst open. And then I gasped as I was blinded by an explosion of white. Chapter 2. Okay, it wasn't an explosion. A few seconds later, I started to see again, and David Blank slowly came into focus. He was standing next to Mr. Webb. He had his camera raised, and a big grin on his carroty face. That's a lesson for you, Julie, he said. That's how you take someone by surprise. An awesome candid shot. David, you nearly blinded me, I cried. I still had white flashes in my eyes. David stared at the view screen on the back of his camera. The look on your face, he cried. He shared it with Mr. Webb, like something in a horror movie. You're a horror movie, I shot back angrily. I was so disappointed that David was there. I elbowed him out of the way, trying to squeeze next to Mr. Webb. You're leaving, right? I said to David. He shrugged. I'm just hanging out, he said. Mr. Webb and I were talking about some yearbook ideas. Mr. Webb took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. He was very tall and lanky. He's so skinny, the bones stick out of his wrists. He has a very narrow face, and his black hair is cut very short. Some kids have a nickname for him. They call him the Needle because he really does look like one. He has a soft voice. He always seems to stop and think for a long time before he answers a question. And he's always taking off his glasses and putting them back on. A nervous habit, I guess. I've never had him as a teacher, but I think he's a good yearbook advisor. He's very fair, and he's always ready to listen to new ideas. My dad got me a new lens for my Pentax, David said. I've got 10 times zoom on this camera, and 20 times zoom on my other camera. Don't brag or anything, I said. He thinks he's way cool because his dad's a manager of Camera World, the camera store at the mall. Mr. Webb pushed his glasses up on his nose and turned to me. Julie, you've got some nice shots on the wrestling team last week, he said. Then he added, so did David. I bit my lip. I thought the wrestling team was my assignment, I said. David grinned. Just thought I'd back you up, he said, in case the little camera of yours broke or something. Couldn't you clobber that kid? You said you have an idea you want to show me? Mr. Webb asked. I reached into my backpack and pulled out the plans I had drawn. If only David would disappear in a flash of white light. It's for the picture of the whole student body, I told Mr. Webb. I had this idea about using the new swimming pool. David laughed. You want to take the picture from underwater? That's awesome. Give me a break, I moaned. You know they haven't filled the new pool yet. There's no water in it. I spread my drawing out on the table, and Mr. Webb bent over to study it. He scratched his head and squinted at it. Is that you on the high diving board? He asked me. I nodded. Yeah, see? We get everyone standing in the pool, 5th grade in front, then 6th, then 7th in the back. And I use a wide angle and shoot down at everyone from the high board. David grinned. And then you dive in... David giggled. And then you dive into the crowd? Awesome. I ignored him. Mr. Webb studied my drawing for a long moment. There might be some safety problems, he said finally. The high diving board it's a very wide platform up there, I said, with railings on both sides. No way I could slip. David leaned over the drawing, blocking Mr. Webb's view. I think Julie and I should both go up there and shoot, he said. She can use her old-fashioned wide angle, and I'll use my Conicus square shooter. I wanted to pound him into the ground. David is such a total pig. The platform isn't that wide, I told Mr. Webb. There's only room for one person up there, and since it's my idea... I know, David said. Let's make it a contest between Julie and me. I swallowed. A contest? Whoever has the most pictures accepted for the yearbook wins, David said. The winner gets to take the big picture from the high board. Mr. Webb thought about it. Then a thin smile crossed his needle face. Well, I guess that would be a fair way to decide, he said. Okay, you have 1 week. Fair? It wasn't fair at all. The pool was my idea, but how could I back down? David had a big grin on his face. I wanted to wipe it off, but I couldn't let him think I was upset. Instead, I said, okay, done deal. We'll have a contest. I folded up my plan and shoved it back into my backpack. Then I waved goodbye to the two of them and left the room. As I walked home, I couldn't think about anything else. I really wanted to win. I really wanted to be the one up there on that high board with everyone in school looking up at me. How was I to know that before too long I'd be falling to my doom? Chapter 3. Saturday afternoon, the sun beamed down from a clear blue sky. It was the first warm day of spring. Rena and I couldn't wait to climb on our bikes and ride all around town. We pedaled past the school, then turned right and coasted downhill toward Fairfax Park. We were both in shorts and t-shirts. It felt great to pretend it was summer. We had a break to slow down at the bottom of the steep hill. How was Sammy this morning? Rena asked. The usual, I said. He was Sammy. What else? Rena laughed. Your brother is a little spoiled, and a little whiny, I added, and a little obnoxious. Mom always says he's just being Sammy. I guess that means he can get away with anything. Baby of the family, Rena said. We rode through the park, in and out of the shade from the old tangled trees that hang over the street. Then we rode past houses where some of our friends live. Some kids were washing a car with a garden hose at the corner. We turned, and a red SUV pulled up beside us. We rode through the park, in and out of the shade from the old tangled trees that hang over the street. Then we rode past houses where some of our friends live. Some kids were washing a car with a garden hose at the corner. We turned and a red SUV pulled up beside us. The back window rolled down, and who should poke their heads out but my best buddies, Becca and Greta. Juju, they both called. Juju. You got rid of your training wheels, Becca shouted. Greta spit her bubble gum at me. Missed. Bye, Juju. The SUV roared away with the girls laughing wildly. I rolled my eyes and started pedaling hard. Rena raced to catch up with me, her blonde hair flying behind her. What did you ever do to them? She asked. I know what it is, I said. Remember my birthday party last fall, the bowling party? I remember, Rena said. I dropped the ball on my foot. Well, my mom said I could only invite 5 kids, I said, and you know Becca and Greta were never in my top 5. They're closer to my bottom 5. Rena laughed. So you didn't invite them? I nodded. Right. They've been horrible to me ever since. I slowed to a stop at a corner. The street sign was lying on its side on the grass. Where are we? I asked. We both squinted into the afternoon sun. I saw tiny houses jammed together on both sides of the block. The front yards were small squares, mostly of tall weeds. One house had cardboard across all its windows. The yard was cluttered with tin cans and other garbage. A mean-looking dog, tall and scrawny, barked at us from a dirt driveway, tugging at a chain leash. 2 young boys were tossing stones against the side of the little shingled house. I don't know this neighborhood, I said. We never rode this far before. It's kind of creepy, Rena said, but then her eyes grew wide. Hey, check it out, a garage sale. She didn't wait for me. She pedaled up the pebble driveway where red and blue balloons bobbed in the wind. Rena can't resist a tag sale. She's totally into old shoes and hats and vintage clothes. I don't know what she does with all the stuff she buys. It's lucky she has big closets in her room. The red brick house was small and square. The screen door was ripped and hung half open. A stuffed monkey stared out of the dusty front window. A huge red-faced woman in a tight-fitting yellow dress sat in a beach chair in front of the garage. She waved to us as we climbed off our bikes, but she didn't get up. She fanned herself with a folded-up newspaper. Then she used it to point to the tables of stuff. Everything is half off, she said in a hoarse voice. I didn't have time to tag it. Just ask me the price. We set our bikes down on the pebble driveway. No one else was around. Down the block, the angry dog kept barking. Rena walked over to a rack of old dresses and coats. It all looked pretty ragged to me, but Rena likes pawing through that stuff. I stopped at a table in front of the open garage door. It was stacked high with yellow old Time magazines and sheet music. I picked up some sheet music and looked through it. My dad plays the piano, and he collects old songs, but these were too smelly and falling apart. Yuck. I dropped them back on the table, but my hands still smelled skunky. I turned and saw Rena trying on straw hats. She's so awesome looking. Hats look great on her. Whenever I try one of hers on, I look like a little girl playing dress-up. There were shelves of old board games and action figures in the garage. I checked out an old werewolf card game called Bite My Face. Really dumb. Then in the gray light at the back of the garage, I spotted something on a low shelf. A camera. I bent and picked it up. Weird, I muttered. It was definitely old. It was square, like an old box camera. Bigger than my digital camera and heavier. It was metal, covered in black leather. I turned it over and saw a built-in flash at the top. Wonder what kind of film it takes, I muttered. I'd never seen a camera like that. I had $5 or $10 in my backpack. Would that be enough to buy the old camera? I carried it up to the woman in the beach chair. Is this for sale? I asked. The woman's eyes bulged. Her chins trembled. No, she screamed. Put it down. You don't want that. Put it down now. Chapter 4. No problem, I stammered. The woman was waving me away with both hands. Her face was beet red. I turned and trotted back into the garage, the camera still in my hands. What's up with this camera? I wondered. I bent to set it back down on the low shelf and felt a tap on my shoulder. Huh? I let out a startled cry, turned, and saw a girl standing behind me. She was about 12, like me, big and red-faced like the woman outside. Her scraggly brown hair fell over her eyes. She wore baggy jeans and a pink sweatshirt that said Mommy's Princess on the front in sparkly letters. You want that camera? She whispered. Well, I don't know, I murmured. If there's something wrong with it. She shoved it against my chest. Go ahead, take it. How much? I asked. The girl shook her head. No charge. Just take it away before my mom sees. She gave me a push toward the driveway. I picked up my bike and stuck the old camera into my backpack. The woman didn't see. She was pouring herself a tall drink from a big plastic pitcher. Rena ran over and lifted her bike from the driveway. Nothing good here, she whispered. Let's go. We called bye to the woman and pedaled away. At the street, I turned and looked back to the garage. The daughter was standing there stiffly, just staring at us. I waved at her, but she didn't wave back. Mom greeted us as we stepped into the house. My mom is dark-haired like me, except she wears hers the length of bristles on a hairbrush. She's short and a little chubby and has non-stop energy. I mean, she never sits down. Rena, would you like to stay for dinner? She asks. Sure, thanks, Rena replied. What are we having? I asked. Mom shrugged. Just pizza. I've been cleaning the attic all day. No time to prepare for a feast. That's the other thing about my mom. She never sits down and she never stops cleaning out rooms. No peppers this time, Sammy came bursting into the room, whining as usual. I hate peppers. Even if you pull them off, you can still taste them. Sammy looks like a junior version of Mom and me. He's short with dark hair and has brown eyes and a gap in his front teeth, like I had before my braces. Okay, no peppers, Mom promised. I pulled the old camera from my backpack. I was eager to check it out. Where'd you get that? Sammy asked. He made a grab for it, but I swiped it out of his reach. Take my picture, he demanded. He posed against the fireplace, stuck his tongue out, and crossed his eyes. Hurry, take my picture. It doesn't have any film, I said. I just got it. Besides, when I do get film, I'm taking Rena's picture, not yours. I turned and aimed the lens at Rena. Then I pretended to take her picture and pushed the shutter button. The flash went off, a bright white. I heard a metal hum, and a square of paper came sliding out of the front of the camera. What's that? Sammy cried. You broke it. Ha! You broke your new camera. He did a little dance around Rena and me. I pulled out the square. It was cardboard and had a smooth, glossy front. Julie didn't break it, Mom said. Haven't you ever seen one of these? It's a self-developing camera. A what? Sammy said. Watch. The picture slides out. Then it will slowly develop, Mom says. These used to be the popular before the digital cameras. We all stared at the little square in my hand. It began to darken. Then colors appeared. Slowly, the picture developed and we could see Rena. Nice colors, I said. Very soft. This is awesome. Oh, wow, Rena groaned. It's a nice shot, but I have red eye. I studied the photo. Yes, Rena looked great. I don't think she can take a bad picture, but her eyes were glowing bright red. Sammy laughed at Rena. You look like a freak. Then he grabbed for the camera again. Let me take a picture. I spun away from him. This isn't a toy, Sammy. I tugged Rena to the stairs. Come to my room, but I can get rid of the red eye. On the computer? Rena asked. I nodded. Yes, I'll scan the picture into my computer and fix the red eye. We hurried up to my room and closed the door so Sammy wouldn't follow us. I scanned the picture into the computer. I have a professional program called PhotoMaster Plus. I'm learning how to use it. I gazed at the picture on the screen and began to adjust it. Weird, I muttered. What's up? Rena asked. She put her hands on my shoulders and leaned over me. I can't darken your eyes, I said. I should be able to fade the red glow, but it won't adjust at all. Oh, help! Ow, my eyes! Rena shrieked. I gasped and spun around. Rena raised her hands to her eyes and started to scream at the top of her lungs. My eyes! Help me! My eyes! Chapter 5. I let out another gasp and jumped up from the chair. What's wrong? Rena pressed her hands over her eyes. Help me, Julie, my eyes are burning. Oh, help me. I grabbed her hands gently and tugged them down. When I saw her eyes, my breath caught in my throat. Her eyes were glowing red like fire. Help me, she moaned. Oh, it hurts. It really hurts. Maybe the flash was too bright, I stammered. You were standing so close to the camera. I pulled Rena into my bathroom. I soaked a washcloth with cold water and pressed it over her eyes. It isn't helping, she shrieked. My eyes, they're burning. It hurts so much. I took the cloth away. Her eyes were still glowing bright red. Here, more cold water, I said. I placed the washcloth back on her face. Then I pulled her downstairs to Mom. Her eyes are burning. They're all red, I told her. Let me see. Mom pulled the cloth away. She blinked a few times when she saw the red glow. Something irritated them badly, she said. Do you have allergies? Rena shook her head. Her whole body was trembling. No allergies. Please, help me. I have some eye drops in my room, Mom said. Julie, they're on my dresser. We tried the eye drops. They didn't help at all. Call Rena's parents, Mom said. Maybe they can get her to an eye doctor. I've never seen anything like this. Mrs. Jacobs arrived a few minutes later. We helped Rena into the car. Call me later, I said, when the burning stops. I watched them drive away. I had a tight feeling in my stomach. I couldn't get Rena's frightened screams out of my ears. In my bedroom, I picked up the snapshot. I stared at Rena's smiling face with the red glowing eyes. How totally weird, I thought. There are 3 little star things indicating a change in time or place or both. After dinner, I was still thinking about Rena. I suddenly remembered I had an assignment from Mr. Webb. I was supposed to be at the gym shooting the girls' basketball game for the yearbook. I grabbed 2 of my cameras and stuffed them into my bag. Then I jumped on my bike and raced to the gym. I got there just in time. The game was nearly over. Our Tigers were losing to the Bay Meadows Stingrays. I saw Carla Mayer, our best player. She stole the ball and dribbled down the floor. She stopped at the line and sent up an easy 3-pointer. The bleachers were about half full of kids. Most of them started to stomp their feet and chant, Carla kills, Carla kills, Carla kills. I decided to take some shots from the top of the bleachers. I took out my best digital camera and hurried up the steep steps. I let out a sharp cry as a red and white sneaker stuck out and tripped me. Ow! I fell and banged my knee hard. I turned and saw who was wearing the sneaker. Becca. She and Greta grinned at me. Not too klutzy, are you? Becca said. She laughed. Juju, too bad. Did you fall on your camera? Greta shouted over the noise of the crowd. I should have ignored them. Instead, I said, Becca, don't you have awfully big feet for a girl? Then I glanced at my camera. Oh, wow, I really did fall on it. The lens was cracked. Shaking my head, I climbed to the top of the bleachers. I gazed at the scoreboard. The Tigers were losing 36-45. Carla would have to go to work. Good photo ops. I reached into my bag for the other camera and let out a cry. Oh no, the weird old camera. I didn't mean to bring it. Well, I had no choice. I had to use it. I knew I couldn't snap dozens of shots with the old thing. I needed to wait for 1 or 2 great moments. I had to get a long shot of Carla running down the floor. Could the old camera do it? I raised it to my face, then groaned. David Blank. He had a blue baseball cap pulled down over his red hair, but I still recognized him easily. What was he doing here? David was on the floor next to the player's bench. He had 2 cameras strapped around his neck, and he was snapping photo after photo. You creep, I shouted out loud. He knew this was my assignment. David would do anything to win our contest, but this just wasn't fair. The Stingrays scored again. The crowd grew quiet. Everyone was waiting for Carla to make a move. I glanced down the bleachers. Becca was on her cell phone. Greta was searching for something in her bag. They weren't even watching the game. I held the old camera ready. A few seconds later, Carla came dribbling full speed down the center of the floor. This was my shot. I kept her in the view screen as she flew toward the basket. She leaped high and sent a layup to the hoop. I pushed the shutter button just as her feet left the floor. The camera flashed. The square of film came sliding out. I gazed at the photo, watching it develop. Weird, I cried. How did I mess up? The picture showed Carla's arm all by itself. Where was the rest of her body, her face? How could I just capture her arm? A loud crack made the kids in the bleachers gasp. And rising over that, I heard a high wail, a long, shrill scream of pain. I turned and saw Carla dangling from the basket rim, hanging by her arm. Carla shrieked and cried. Tears rolled down her face. Even from the top of the bleachers, I could see that her arm was horribly broken. It hung there, at a totally strange angle. Players from both teams stood beneath her, screaming and crying. Kids were covering their eyes. The coaches hurried to lower her to the floor. The referee kept blowing her whistle again and again like a siren. Wailing in agony, Carla lay sprawled on her back on the gym floor, the bones of her arm poking out through her skin. Gasping for breath, I realized I had the snapshot clenched tightly in my hand. I raised it to my face and stared at it, stared at Carla's arm all by itself, and suddenly I felt sick. Chapter 6. 4 paramedics in white uniforms arrived a short while later. They couldn't keep the shock off their faces when they saw Carla. Coach Ambers was down on the floor beside her, trying to hold Carla still. Carla was silent now. I thought maybe she was in shock or something. The gym had emptied out. Both teams had been sent to the locker rooms. The medics lifted Carla onto a stretcher. I could see that her arm was bent almost backwards. I tucked the photo into my bag. The referee had left the gym, but I could still hear her shrill whistle ringing in my ear. I thought about Rena, about her red eye, and then I pictured Carla's arm again. A deep shudder ran through my body. Maybe I should have listened to that woman's warning. Maybe I should have left the camera in her garage. This can't be a coincidence. There's something evil about this old camera. I didn't see David until he was right in front of me. He grabbed the old camera from my hand. "Hey!" I cried out and tried to take it back, but he swiped it out of my reach. "Whoa, this is totally awesome," he said. "Where did you get this? Let me try it." "No," I screamed. I made another grab for it. Too late. David aimed the camera at me and flashed it in my face. Chapter 7. I shut my eyes. I could still see the white flash with my eyes closed. I heard the film inside out from the camera. When I opened my eyes, David was staring at the camera. He laughed. "Is this a toy? This is Sammy's camera, right?" "It's very old," I said. "I have to take it back. There's something wrong with it." David rolled it around in his hand. "Look, something popped out of it." "Does it squirt water too?" "You're not funny," I said, and then I saw what he was looking at. The square of film. It didn't slide all the way out. It was stuck halfway in the camera. "See, it's broken," I said. "I'm going to return it." I stopped. My breath caught in my throat. A sharp pain wrapped around my middle. It's as if I were wearing a heavy belt, and a belt kept tightening and tightening and tightening. I made a groaning sound. I couldn't breathe. I doubled over. The pain shot around me. I felt as if I'd been cut in half. "Julie? Julie?" I felt David's hands on my shoulders. "Are you okay? What's wrong?" I couldn't straighten up. I couldn't talk or breathe. Cut in half. Cut in half. Suddenly, I realized what I had to do. Fighting the pain, I struggled to raise myself. I grabbed the camera. The pain tightened around my middle. "Julie, do you need help?" I could hear David's voice. It sounded far away. "Julie, does something hurt?" he cried. "Should I get someone?" I couldn't answer. The pain tightened my jaw, tightened every muscle. I saw red, then black. I knew I was about to pass out. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed the film square, and I tugged it hard. Pulled it the rest of the way out of the camera. Will it work? Will the pain go away now? I gritted my teeth and waited. Chapter 8. No. The photo fell from my hand. I bent double, squeezing my sides, the pain tightening around me. It felt like a hot wire burning into my skin, and then the pain vanished. It didn't fade away slowly, it just disappeared. So suddenly, I gasped and jerked up straight, blinking in surprise. I took in a long, deep breath, then another. I rubbed a hand around my waist. It felt perfectly fine again. "Are you okay now?" David asked. He had gone so pale his freckles had faded into his skin. "Julie?" I didn't answer. I gripped the camera tightly against my chest, then I spun away from David and ran across the gym floor. "Hey," David shouted after me. "What's your problem?" I didn't answer. I kept running until I was outside in the parking lot, breathing in the cool, fresh night air. I knew what my problem was. It was the camera. First Rena, then Carla, then me. The camera was evil. It hurt people. I had to get rid of it. I had to take it back to that strange woman. I held the camera tightly against me and pedaled my bike home, riding with one hand. A car rolled past with loud music pouring out from the open windows. A girl waved to me from the passenger seat, but I didn't wave back. I tossed my bike against the side of the garage. Breathing hard, I ran into the house through the kitchen door. I planned to hurry up to my room and hide the camera before anyone saw me, but Sammy jumped out as I stepped into the living room. He had an ugly rubber skeleton mask over his face. Take my picture or you die, he rasped. He struck a pose with both hands raised and curled like claws. Sammy, since when is it Halloween? I asked. I'm not Sammy. I'm the Silver Skull. Take my picture or I'll crush you with my skull vision. I shuddered. Poor Sammy. If I took his picture with this evil camera, he probably would become a skeleton. Out of my way. I didn't mean to push him so hard, but I was desperate to get the camera hidden away in my room. Hey, you're skeleton meat, Sammy shouted, waving his fist angrily. You will feel the wrath of the Silver Skull. That made me laugh. He's a spoiled brat, but he's cute. I crossed my room and pulled open the closet door. In the back, I had a tall heap of dirty clothes that I'd forgotten about. I buried the camera under the mountain of jeans and shirts. No way Sammy could find it in there. My heart was pounding like a drum. I knew I wouldn't feel normal again until I returned the evil thing. At least it couldn't do any more harm buried under a ton of smelly clothes. I dropped onto my bed with a weary sigh. I pulled my cell phone out, clicked it open, and called Rena. Are your eyes better? I asked. No, they're not, Rena answered sharply. All thanks to you. Excuse me? You heard me, Rena snapped. My eyes are still glowing like a freak and still burning. Oh, I'm so sorry, I moaned. I can't read, I can't watch TV, I can't do my homework, Rena shouted. And I can't go to school because I can't let anyone see me like this. Rena, I'm really sorry, I repeated. Sorry? Rena cried. Sorry? Julie, that woman warned you not to take the camera, but you think you know it all. You think you can do whatever you want. Well, look at what you did to me. Rena, please, I begged. The doctor never saw anything like this, Rena screamed. You ruined my life, Julia. But why are you talking to me like this? I cried. We're friends and... No, we're not, Rena replied. We're not friends anymore. No way. I couldn't believe she said that. I realized my whole body was trembling. I could barely hold the phone to my ear. I could hear her sobbing into the phone. Rena, listen to me, I pleaded. I'm taking the camera back to that house tomorrow. Will you come with me? We can ask that woman about your eyes. Julia, get lost, Rena said in a low, cold voice, and she clicked off her phone. The next day, school dragged on forever. I kept thinking about the camera hidden away in my closet, and I really missed Rena. Her telling me to get lost tied my stomach into knots every time I thought about it. After school, I ran all the way home. I wanted to get there before Sammy. I dove into my closet and tossed the dirty clothes aside. Then I grabbed the camera and headed to the garage to get my bike. Wouldn't you know it? Flat tire. I didn't dare. The camera was going to be returned today if I had to crawl. I stuffed it into my backpack and started to walk. A cool wind blew in my face. It made the tall trees in the front yard sway and creak. The sun kept disappearing behind dark clouds. I was pretty sure I remembered how to get there. I walked past my school. Some boys from my class were tossing frisbees on the front lawn. Past the school, I turned and walked down the steep hill toward Fairfax Park. A few kids I didn't recognize were taking turns skateboarding down the hill. I wished I was having fun too. I felt a couple of cold raindrops on my forehead as I stepped into the park. The dark clouds spread across the sky. The wind grew colder. Turn around, a voice in my head whispered. Julie, go home. No, I said out loud. I kept walking. The trees swayed and whispered as I made my way through the park. The wind swirled, but the rain held off. I hurried through the park, then walked through the neighborhood of small square houses. Was I on the right street? Yes, I could see the woman's red brick house halfway down the next block. I waited for a yellow school bus to pass. Then I started to cross the street. I took a few steps and stopped when I heard a cough behind me. I spun around. No one there. Weird. I crossed the rest of the way. I started to walk faster since I could see the house. Almost there. But I stopped again when I heard the scrape of footsteps, soft thuds on the sidewalk. Again, I turned. The street was lined with slender young trees. Did someone slip behind one of them? I turned and took a few more steps. I was almost to the woman's driveway. I heard more soft footsteps behind me. A chill shot down my back. I'm being followed. Rain started to fall. I spun around. My eyes darted from tree to tree. Who's there? I called. My voice sounded muffled by the rain. No answer. I know you're there, I shouted. Who is it?